then that's basically it for all the announcements that we had tonight about what's coming up. All right. So now there's not a lot of new news that's going on with the whole currency exchange issue, other than the fact that, yes, I was getting some updates from our direct folks in Texas and our direct folks, that are basically in Reno based. And there was some information that said that they were really ready to go. And then I had another gentleman that has some really high contacts and sources. And basically what they've come down and said is the fact that everything is ready to go. But what's happening is, because this is an event that is such a huge political event internationally, it's going to have a huge impact all around the world. There's basically the politics and the security issues that are involved and the intelligence issues that are involved, and they're waiting for the people at the very, very top. And when they say go, it's going to go. And I've been saying this for some time, is it's in my estimation that this stuff is not going to go until it's ready to go, in conjunction with probably some other stuff that's going on politically around the world or around the country. It's almost like they need a form of an event that's going on that gives us a news cover so that we don't become the news of all these funds being released. And yes, it's right at the top. It's at the top of the political world leaders. It's Trump and the others that are going to be making the decision when the button is pressed, if there's anything to say on that. And that's what it is. And we don't know. Because, folks, unless you are in a need to know, they're not telling you. And even the funding people, the people with the money, are not in a need to know. Because they've done their work, everything is released, everything is in place, but it's only the very, very top people that are ready when you say, boom, press the button and where it's going to go, and they're not talking to anybody because they don't want this information getting out. So that's about all I can say. I wish I had more news because it really looked like things were going to go. Now, for those of you that are in round one and you were involved with either, the Dong exchange with me, and I said I was going to send out some new paperwork for an affidavit, just relax. Please be patient. There's a reason why I don't give updates, because as soon as I start sending out a lot of information in emails or in newsletters about specific currency exchange issues, I come up on the radar screens of the people who would like to basically shut us down and take us out. And I don't want to be creating that. Secondly, I don't want to be taking this list and broadcasting it to them. So there's a reason why I don't put a lot out there in emails or in the newsletters and give those types of updates unless it's pertinent and it's important and it's something that's specific. Trust the fact that when I bring the stuff forward for any new forms, that there's a timing that's involved in all that and when that's going to take place. So that's pretty much all that I have on that issue there tonight. So anything else that Blanca, that you would like to add before we go on to the program tonight?
No. So it sounds to me like you're saying the affidavit you had talked about is on pause for now.
Yes.
And that when you feel it's time to move and expedient, then that's when you'll do it.
Yes. Yeah, because there's no urgency for it.
Right.
Just know that when I do send it out, it means things are close. And I'm going from my sources of what they're saying. Is that means we're ready to be moving. So, and I don't want to do it prematurely. See, what happens when you do that? You get you got 300 people. You send this out, and then I've got 300 emails and forms and coming back in, and it's just like my whole email box just gets activated, And these are professional folks that are professional hackers, and they can hack into my email accounts anytime they want to. So I don't want to create a lot of red flags for them with all these people that I'm working with. Because once money is ready to move, by that time, I'm probably not on their radar screen anymore because of the fact that they are so focused on other stuff that I'm not coming up on their radar screen. If nothing else is going on anywhere else, then I'm on their radar screens. And so I try to look at it for security issues, which is the best and most safe, secure way for all of us to do this. So that's why I haven't been putting anything out there. So, okay?
Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Anything else that you'd like to share with us?
No, I think that's good.
You think we're ready to go with the program tonight?
Yes.
Let's do it. Yes. Well, folks, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about what I was classifying as future endeavors, future events. And again, to give a little bit of a background to that is the fact that we're living in a world that we're going through basically a massive change. I've been spending some time listening to the audible versions of two of David Wilcock's very, very good books. His latest book, Ascension Mysteries, and the one prior to that is basically called The Synchronicity Keys. And he outlines this stuff that I've already been looking at, researching, reading through, talking about on the programs, and he explains it very well. And he lines up with me and says, we are going through a massive, complete energy shift in our world. We have these cycles of time that are repetitive. And we just finished what is a major 26,000 year cycle that was back in, the December 2012 time. And these shifts and changes don't happen overnight. They happen over a process of decades or maybe a couple hundred years. But when you take 200 years, it's a very short period of time over 26,000 years. And it's reflecting by how much our world has changed in just the last 120 to 140 years. You go back 150 years ago, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have trains, we didn't have hardly any of that. Well, trains were just starting to come in. But you're capturing the intent of what I'm saying here, is that for 10,000 years we were flat, and then the last 160 years has been like a straight spike up about how much change we have had in our world. And that's the change in the physical world. And what we're starting to learn now, and what's going to go on for probably the next 80 to 100 to 150 years, is the change that we're going to learn because from what comes into our internal world, i.e. how we think, the power of our thoughts, and the power of human consciousness. If you want to watch a great illustration about the power of thought, it's that little video called the double slit experiment. And you can go into YouTube and you can put in their double slit experiment, and it'll come out this little part of that comes out of the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? And it shows how human consciousness literally impacts what we call are the electrons of how things are made and what we experience in our world. And also, all the new scientific research that is coming out and showing is the world that we live in is a holographic illusion. Even Einstein was saying 80 to 100 years ago, there is no such thing as matter. Matter doesn't really exist. And so what we feel in the world of things that are physical, they're not really physical. It's just an illusion of our five senses that makes it give that appearance. Because when you get into science at the quantum level of quantum physics and you start going down even below the quantum physics, they will tell you that when it comes to matter and you get below the level of the atoms, at the electrons and the protons, even in them, they're not necessarily physical items. What we do is that we live in a universe where everything is energy. And all this energy is out there, and it appears in wave forms. And then what happens is human thought, human consciousness. Let me say this. I should say it's not just human consciousness. It's the consciousness of all living matter and material, which includes animals and, yes, even plants. They put out a form of consciousness, and what it does, this energy that comes out of our consciousness takes all this massive wave energy, and it contracts it into a compacted form, and then that compacted form of energy takes on the appearance of electrons, atoms, molecules, and physical substance items. But at the end of the day, it's all based on perception. And that's all that it is. We have been programmed into our brains and into our minds to think that the world is physical, i.e. the Newtonian world of Newtonian science. We think everything is solid and physical. And science is now beginning to show us it's not. But yet we're still programmed to think that way. And so what we have is, we have the world that we live in, that we're programmed to observe, that we think everything around us in this world of form is physical, it's in direct opposition to what is true, to what is real, to what is really out there. So it means that we're living in a world of an illusion. Everything that we see around us that has the appearance of form, it's only an illusionary matter of perception. And this world that we're going to be moving into, some of us are going to be on the front edge of basically what are going to be the pioneers of moving into the new perception world. Others, it will take 50 years, 80 years, 100 years, 200 years for them to catch up. But there's going to be some of us that are going to be the early pioneers. And we're going to start shifting and retraining how we perceive this world. And it starts by beginning to learn to think with the fact that the world around you is not real. It's not a physical world. It's only a perception of what it is. And when you begin to redo that, you are in the process of reprogramming how you think. And when you begin to reprogram how you think, then the conscious mind begins to line up with what the unconscious mind knows to be true. And when these start lining up together, when your conscious mind is operating the same way as your subconscious and unconscious minds, you then move into what is called this new world. It's what I call the quantum holonomic-based world. We become quantum holonomic-based people. We begin to think in terms of quantum. We begin to think in terms of holonomic. And holonomic is that it's not physical. It's not real. It's an illusionary world. But when we think that way, we then begin to release ourselves from the limitations of a Newtonian, hardcore, everything is solid matter physical world into becoming a quantum holonomic-based people who no longer have limitations of a physical world. We learn to live beyond that. That's where we're going as a human race. That's the humanity part that we're going into. David Wilcock talks about that in his books. A.R. Borden, who I've always referred to you, talks about that in his materials. Dr. Neruda talks about that in his interviews. A couple months ago, I had brought out the book, The Holonomic Universe, how they talk about that. And even Gary Renard, who I refer to a lot, who I'm hosting here in Sedona in about, a month and a half for a workshop, in his book, Disappearance of the Universe, that's part of the main theme, is that the world is not real. There is no real, the physical world is not a real world, i.e., the title. The universe begins to disappear. Your perception of this universe begins to disappear when you start moving into truth versus illusion. Now, here's what's interesting, some of the stuff that I've picked up recently out of David Wilcock's books, and it's been really interesting stuff. The DNA let's just say this. I'm getting some background noise. I don't know if that's coming from you, Blanca, but I'm hearing some fuzzy noise in the background. So,
I'm on mute.
Okay. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'll just continue. I'll go on. Okay. We live in a world that every single memory that we have of every feeling, every emotion, and every thought, it records within our DNA. And our DNA is like this master computer hard drive that has all this memory stored within it. Because memory data bits are basically data bits of information. They're energy information based. And it's not every memory of just this lifetime. It's every memory of every lifetime we have ever lived is still there within us in our DNA. But it's so massive we can't bring it up to basically our conscious mind. But DNA, they are beginning to realize, has the ability to shift and change. It's not Newtonian based, it's quantum based, and it can shift and change in how it operates. And DNA is what is facilitating us in being in the ability to what I call being expansive consciousness people versus constrictive or dense consciousness people. Constrictive consciousness means we still want to live in basically what is a Newtonian-based world. We constrict our consciousness, we constrict our DNA, it limits our ability to perceive, it limits our ability to understand what's going on around us, and it limits our perception to a very constricted type of a position. When we open ourselves up to possibility of shifting, when we open up our possibilities to changing, when we start taking in new information, and we receive that information as a positive manner, that this is a probability, it expands our DNA, it expands our consciousness, and then we start living into what is called expansive consciousness. And expansive consciousness is what helps us moving into what is called this new world of this quantum holonomic-based world. And it all is based on how we choose to perceive what goes on around us. Are we choosing to perceive what is going on around us in a negative manner, in a constrictive manner? Are we choosing to be people who are judgmental, people who are angry, people who are selective, people who are critical, people who are based in what I call, negativity, low vibrational energy patterns? If you want to live that world, if you want to live in the Newtonian world, then that's what you're going to experience and that's what you're going to be like. If you start seeing possibility, if you start seeing expansion, and that doesn't mean that you throw stuff out there and you just glibly believe anything that there is, you still look for what I call tangible, reasonable explanations or proof for the things that you want to put your trust in or what you want to believe. And I always work very, very hard at everything that I bring forward, whether it's talking about currency exchanges, dragon families, or everything, that I can base all of that on tangible fact and history. And so that I'm not throwing out there what I call an illusionary world, because there are people that are out there that are still believing, in this, currency exchange, that they're going to have their $100 trillion Zim and they're going to be able to go into a processing center and exchange it and get $100 trillion. Come on, folks. That's crazy. I know that is crazy. But it's not crazy. It's historically based in fact that there are these dragon families out there that have this untold amount of gold that they have been the caretakers and the custodians over for thousands of years. I've met with them. I've made 4 trips to Hong Kong to meet with them. I'm now working with Marcia Middleton, and I have the direct contacts with the people who work directly with what they call the Papa, the man who heads up the senior council. And I was supposed to go in on one of my trips to Hong Kong 3 years ago, what was the single largest gold storage facility in the world. And 2 days before I was supposed to go in, the man who was going to take me in had an assassination attempt on his life. I've seen pictures. I've been on Skype with a lady based in Asia that they call the Princess. And she had her associate, who was an attorney, come in, and we communicated on Skype, and they showed me pictures that would just blow you away. And folks, this wasn't just pictures of Illuminator stuff. This was the picture of the princess holding the gold. The princess herself holding this massive diamond. And I'm thinking, the lady in that picture is the same lady that I'm talking to right now on Skype. That's the same people. There's no question about that. And yet all this stuff that's around them, all of this has been designed to be held back in custodianship, to be released to us, the human race, at the right appointed time. There's a reason why these families haven't released these massive funds, because if they did, they knew that the world that we lived in, that is dominated and controlled by this cabal, that basically it would all end up back in their hands and their power and control, because they had the means and the way to be able to apprehend it. We live in what is called a current central banking system, that about 80% of all of the money that moves through the banks around the world ends up still in their power and control. They have the ability to control the money flow of this world, this cabal central banking system. And when you control the money, you can control this world. There was this old quote that came from the Rothschilds in the 1800s, and it says, "Let us control a country's currency, and we'll control the country regardless of what laws they pass." And folks, I was in politics. I experienced that. I knew that. So here we are, and we're ready to be moving into this new world. So these funds being released are not about keeping us in an old holonomic constrictive consciousness perspective. It's designed to be able to move us to be an expansion-based people. So when these funds come forward, it's not about just you and me getting money. It's not about just you and me being nice and giving it away to other people. It's also about using it as a resource and as a tool to set us free from what has been hundreds, if not thousands of years of forms of financial slavery, so that we become conscious-based, expansion conscious-based people to create shift and change. You want to change this world? Change how you think. When we as a collective begin to move into expansion-based consciousness, compassion-based consciousness, love-based consciousness, holographic, powerful, energy-based consciousness, high-vibrating consciousness, when we do that, we set into motion all the shifts and changes that take place. Now, let me come back to some of the things again that David Wilcock referred to. They've done the scientific research, and they said that this DNA that we have within us, the DNA holds what are called photons of light energy, photon light. Photon light is the tiny, tiny, what you call particles of light energy. DNA is a holder of photon light energy. But the amount of photon light energy that DNA's molecules within us or atoms within us can hold is massive. When you are operating in low energy, low vibration, negative thinking, attacking, hatred types of activities, your light energy is small. Very small light energy. When you let go of the negative thinking, when you let go of the dense consciousness, when you let go of the constrictive consciousness, when you let go of the anger, when you let go of the hatred, when you let go of the judgment, when you let go of the attacking, you open up this possibility of this consciousness, and the amount of photon light energy that your DNA can hold, it expands and it becomes massive. And why are we going through this shift and change? Because not only are we holding in a very positive aspect more photon light energy, our galaxy has moved into a place of what is called the photon band. Our Earth is getting hit, bathed, showered, whatever you want to call it, with this photon light energy. And NASA will show this to you. Astronomy researchers will show this to you. When we go through this 26,000 year cycle, we move into this photon band for about a 2,000 year period. We're out of it for about a 6,500 year period. We move into it for about 2,000, and then it goes back through and it hits the other side, and that's the whole 26,000 year cycle. We have just shifted and moved into the photon band. And that was part of the shift and transition that was taking place around the 2012 shift. But remember, that's not an exact date. There is a date that there were some events that happened on that December 1st, 2012 date, but the energy from it goes out far beyond that. And so what's happening, we as a humanity are moving into the probability of expansion of what is called consciousness expansion. We're going through an evolutionary shift and change. Some people, as this new energy is coming in, as the photon light energy is happening and the expansion is happening that is out there, people are choosing not to change. Well, life's going to get kind of miserable for you if it already isn't. You're going to find your conflicts increase, your pain increases, your ability to perceive what goes on around you begins to increase. And what happens is, if you're an anger, judgment-based person, all of a sudden your ability to perceive shrinks. You get stuck in this place of anger and judgment and hatred. And then you carry all the energy outcomes of that. And you, bottom line is, karma's a bitch. You create a lot of very negative karma for yourself. And karma is something that's energy-based within the universe, folks. It's not just a nice little concept and thought. There's massive research that has gone on behind that is showing that. When we allow ourselves to expand, when we allow ourselves to move into expansion consciousness, we become light. And I don't mean just light, a photon light. We become light feeling, because light does that. All of a sudden, life takes on a great perspective. Life begins to happen for you. You begin to experience this shift and change. And what happens is, when you're moving into high vibrational consciousness, the photon light energy in your DNA explodes. And when you are giving a thought to somebody else, you are literally creating this tunnel that connects with them in an energetic manner, and you are moving massive photons of light energy to them. And they have a choice. They have a choice to receive this light. It's not always, you're not consciously aware of it. It's stuff that takes place on the inside of you. But you're sensing it. You're feeling something that is going on within you. You have the ability to receive this energy and expand with it, or you have the ability to resist it. And when you've got massive amounts of photon light energy coming into you, coming into your being, coming into your body, and you resist it, you begin to shut down. You lose your perception. You lose your ability to conceive what's going on around you. And you fall back into this very dark, negative, very painful world. It's always your choice. Nobody ever forces you to do this, because nobody else can ever do this for you. And you get stuck living in the matrix world, the illusionary, fake, Newtonian-based world, and you get stuck and you're in the matrix, and you're stuck there. That world's pretty miserable. I was in politics for 12 years as an elected official. I've been around campaigns and politics for close to 25 years now. I look at what's going on around us, especially here in the United States. I've never seen as much distortion, as much negativity, as much attack, as much deep partisanship as I see that is going on right now. And folks, it's not on just one side of the aisle. It's on both sides. What we're seeing is the contrast of the high energy versus the low energy and the conflicts that it is creating. I was on Facebook today, and this gentleman comes in, sits down in an airplane seat, and he has a, Make America Great hat on. And the woman next to him just goes ballistic. She gets angry, attacking, negative, yelling at him, screaming at him, saying, I don't want to sit next to this absolute racist, based person. And he's just sitting there not even saying anything, and all he's doing is wearing the hat. Can you see the contrast that is there? This deep anger and hatred that is coming out of somebody just based on a perception. The inability to accept what goes on around you. The inability to have a compassion for someone else who is different than you. The inability to give people the freedom to be able to express themselves a little bit differently than you. Huge judgment that is there. Huge amount of hatred and anger that is there. And folks, let me be very clear. This is not a one-sided issue. I mean, there can be Donald Trump people that can be doing that just as much to people on the other side. It's happening on both sides. But that was a classic illustration because of the visibleness of the guy just wearing this hat. And we're seeing more and more of this, how much deeper that it is. So look beyond the surface and begin to see how deep this is taking place. And this is the contrast of the world that we're moving into. And we have a choice. We have a choice, and the money coming forward is designed to be a tool for us. It's designed to be a tool that is going to help us in our expansion consciousness. That we expand with it, that we change our world, that we begin to have basically people who have the ability to shift and change things around us. Because if you want to heal and fix this world, You change your perception about how you view the world, and you move into an expansion consciousness. It was interesting. I've already known this. I've already felt this for a long time. But this is even what David Wilcock brought out in the recent book. He says, you want to know what the energy is that produces the highest amount of massive flow of proton light energy? It's the power of love. It's the energy of love. Love has this massive energy expansion to it. When you choose to take people that are absolutely assholes, doing dumb and stupid stuff, obviously very angry and bitter people that are filled with judgment and hatred, and you just come from a place of love toward them. That doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It doesn't mean you have to buy into what they're doing. You look beyond the density and you see the light that is within them. When we learn how to think that way, that requires a change for most of us, and it's required a change for me. I mean, I admit that, because there's times there are people that come around my life and they're absolutely assholes, and the next thing you know, I've got my mind going and I'm judging them and I'm thinking, what a absolute asshole that guy is, and we all go through that. But I catch myself, and that's where I'm different. My light, when I talk about this high amount of proton light energy and love energy that comes into your life and that you're able to shift and change, I don't say this just for myself. I'm hearing this from literally scores, if not hundreds of people that have been attending my workshops now for 4 and 5 years, and they've known me for that long, and they are consistently saying, Dave, you're changing. Your life is changing. You're not the same person that you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And it says, you're basically becoming the example for us, and you're leading as a leader by example about how your life is changing and where you're taking us and where we can go with this. And I just want to say thank you for that. And I don't want to get into an egotistical issue, but yet I want to talk about basically some of it is factual. I experienced that. I feel that. What I notice in my life is, and I've shared this before, I rarely experience fear anymore. Rarely. I just don't. Fear is a very, very low energy stream, and I just don't experience it. I can't tell you the last time that I've had what I call a bout of anxiety, worry, fear. I still deal with some anger issues now and then, but nowhere near what it used to be. There are this group of people out there on a website that has just been blatantly, viciously attacking me, Robert with Meta OneCoin, and those that are involved in Meta OneCoin. There's a couple of them that they will call 3, 4, 5 times a day using fake phone numbers, using fake names. I've had this one guy that's been sending me vicious emails. I mean profanity, deep profanity. And then he goes out and he has to spend hours putting these YouTube videos together that are just viciously attacking us. Here's a man that's sick. Here is a man that's living, spending hours upon hours a day, living in deep hatred, deep anger, and deep judgment. And they call me that I'm the biggest scammer around. How do you scam people when you don't sell anything or take any money from them? Folks, the only thing I take money for is when you pay to come to my workshops, and that's it. Yes, there's you can give a donation tab on my website. I'm lucky if I take in a donation about once every 3 months, and it's usually just around $20 to $30. Come on, folks, because I don't ask for stuff. I don't have to ask for stuff. But yet money flows to me because I have learned how to move in what is called positive energy. I am experiencing what is called the flow of resources, the flow of abundance. I don't live in scarcity anymore. I don't have feelings of scarcity. I don't have feelings of lack. I don't have feelings of inadequacy. And all I know is that anytime I need something or I want something, the money's just always there. Now, I'm not wanting a $100,000 vehicle. That doesn't mean that much to me. But I have a nice car. Things flow for me. I don't lack. I can go where I want, when I want. I get to do what I want, when I want, and it all flows in with what I'm doing with you here. My life wasn't like that 5 years ago. You've heard my story. Because, see, I was undoing and shifting and changing all the old dense stuff in my life 5 years ago. And when these dense things were happening to me, dense things like I lost everything I had in a real estate investment project. I had to file bankruptcy. I lost my home to foreclosure. I had to sell all my large items. I moved here to the Sedona area. I had a job, and then all of a sudden that fell apart. And it was only a little over 5 years ago, folks, there was a day I had $56 in my bank account, and I had no place to live. And I was one day away from being homeless with $56. That's called scarcity. But through that process, down inside, instead of living in fear, instead of living in anxiety, I just trusted what was there. And I knew down inside that this was a process that I was going through to let go of the old scarcity and lack lifestyle that I had been in, so I could heal all that old energy that was there. I could let go of all the old dense, consciousness that was there and move into a higher sense of it. And down inside, I knew that. I refused. Yes, there was a moment there I was fearful. I thought, what am I going to do? But I caught it. I caught it quickly. And I said, wait a minute. What I am experiencing right now is bigger than fear. And I'm not going to allow myself to go there. That was a massive shift and change for me, because when that happened, everything shifted and changed. Everything fell into place. My life began to heal. Everything was shifting for me. And within 8 months, I was doing this radio program. And there was a short period of time in there I remembered that I was asking for donations. And I was saying, you don't need to give me a lot, but if you want me to keep doing this, you want me to do these radio programs, send me $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you want to send. And that went on for about 8 months, and then I started the workshops. And the response was just absolutely overwhelming from you, the folks. And you've continued to do that. And I continue to do these workshops because the people who come, they get it. They understand it. They're seeing their lives change. They're getting to see when they're physically present there, they're getting a larger degree of the real positive energy that takes place in these workshops, and that flow of high photon energy that gets to come into there. And it's an exchange that goes on with them and with me. Through these years, I've come to this point, and I've grown to the point that I can handle massive amounts of this photon energy coming at me, and then I reflect it and give it back. And I get that. I mean, folks, those of you who've been there, you know that. You have to have been there to experience that. But what I hear over and over and over again, that it's the powerful, positive energy that is present at these workshops. It's not just the information. And that's why I continue to do this, because it's a powerful, life-shifting and changing experience for all of us when this happens. And it's an exchange that goes on with both of us, not just me. You bring it as well. You're bringing the positiveness because you step in. People who come in that are negative and critical, some of them are. But But if those who are around them, they notice they shift and they change, or they leave and don't come back. But the people who get it, every one of my workshops, I'm at the point now about 25 to 30% of the people are repeats. Why do these people keep coming back and coming back? Because they love what's taking place there. They're feeling the shift and changes. They're experiencing this expansionness that's taking place. And folks, this isn't going to stop when the money comes. That's not going to stop. That's really just the start of it, because we will continue to expand, and that expansion is going to continue to take place. And this is something that I love to do and what I get to do. And the people who want to be the negative, critical attackers, that's your choice. That's your choice. You're the ones who get to choose to live the life that you're experiencing. But tell me, what's your life like? How does it feel? Does it feel really good for you? Are you at peace? Do you have people surrounding you with a sense of love? Are you experiencing this powerful, positive, light energy that's coming into your life? I know the massive amounts of people that attend the workshops, and even those that communicate with me, they do. And even right now, if you're on my Facebook page with anybody in the world can be on, you're seeing some of the comments coming up about the people who've been there that are, ratifying and verifying yes of what I'm saying. So we are in a shift and a change to move into new, high, powerful, positive, light-bearing beings. These quantum holonomic beings is who we are, what we're wanting to become. And that's not just stopping with just the experience. It's also going to carry on to beyond that. Now, I haven't touched on this topic very much, but I will be in the future because I'm taking the time to really learn it and understand it. And it's going to take me some months to do that. And that's the work of A.R. Borden's materials. Because he says we as a humanity, as a human race, we are always doing what is called MPO, manifest production observership. We are always constantly manifesting and producing everything that goes on around us with this human consciousness. The level of consciousness you bring into it reflects the level of what it is that you're producing. In essence, whatever it is that you're experiencing in your life, you're the one who's creating it for yourself and collectively with those around you. And he takes that to the next step and called LERM, light encoded reality matrix, LERM. And he and his group of scientists, they had this ability to literally make anything manifest right in front of them out of nothing. I'm not going to go into depth tonight to talk about how that works, but I am reading his book, and I have it in what is called PDF form. And here it is, and it's called Ultimate Thought. And it's about 180 pages. And it's very descriptive. I have to read it slowly, paragraph by paragraph, to stay with him and follow the flow of what he's saying. But he talks about all the research that these very bright scientists did for over 10 years to understand how something starts as thought and becomes what we think is a physical item. It has the appearance of being physical, but it's not. And he says there are 7 stages and steps that it goes through. And they had learned how to accelerate that process where they could make anything appear in front of them at any point in time. That's the world we're moving into, folks. And I will, in the later programs and some time down the road, I'll start describing the learn process. But remember, what we're living in becoming these, what I call these expansion beings, these quantum holonomic-based beings who learn how to shift how we change, learn how to shift how we perceive our world around us, learn how to reprogram our thinking process. When we learn to think that way, we are setting into motion the protons of light energy to bring those things into our lives. But you have to undo all the old density stuff that's been there for multiple lifetimes, and that takes the time to do that. And the funds coming forward have one predominant purpose: to give you the time and the resources to become a quantum holonomic being. It takes work, it takes focus, it takes time, and it takes an education process to undo all the old stuff. Because when you look at Borden and his group, they had moved into a place in their lives. They didn't need anything. They didn't need money. They could just make $10,000, boom, appear right in front of them in $100 bills anytime they wanted to. There was nothing they needed. They were not tied to a Newtonian-based, third-dimensional, physical world of need, of want, of needing, having power, having control, being addicted to the energy of power and control. They had freed themselves totally from that. They were here to serve. They were here to work in service to others. They were here to do research that would take us into the new world. And they did it. Their stuff was never public because with the stuff, the research that they're doing was so far beyond what was being perceived in the world. If they would have been discovered, you would have known within a heartbeat. Cabal personnel would have come in and shut them down. And basically that's what happened to Borden. He had come to the point where he was starting to publicly talk about the work that he was doing, and when that happened, basically the cabal came after him. He called it the ones that are part of the transhumanist agenda. They came after him and they took him out, and he was dead within 2 months. Borden's materials and his writings for those last 10 years that he and his colleagues had done had been kept quiet, and they're now starting to be released to the public, and they're quietly coming out. You want to read Borden's materials? You go to the Facebook page. The Facebook page. The Writings of A.R. Borden, B-O-R-D-E-N. You have to ask to become a member of that page, and when you become a member of that page and they accept you, you then have access to what is called the Files tab in the left side of the column, and you click on that, and you're going to get access to his 43 books, essays, and white papers of all the work that they had done. Stuff that blows you away. In my estimation, and I've discussed this with others, when Borden's materials start becoming discovered, when his materials start becoming out there in the accepted research world, he will go down in history as the next Nikola Tesla. He was that far advanced in everything that he was doing. He and his colleagues were living in the quantum holonomic world. They understood it as scientists and researchers and as physicists. They understood the physics behind the metaphysical world of what we call it that. They understood how it all worked. He will go down in that. I'm having the opportunity to be some of those that are on the front end of learning and understanding about him, and there's another whole side story around that, and I don't have time to get into that tonight. But this is the world that we're moving into, and he was bringing us into that world and bringing us into that advancement and bringing us that availability. But at the end of the day, remember, nobody forces you to do anything. It's always your choice. What world do you want to live in? What kind of life do you want to live? We're now moving into the capability we're going to be able to have this expansion because of this massive amount of photon light energy. And there are going to be some people that are going to pick this up with what we call the 100th monkey effect. They're going to catch it. They're going to realize it. This is, oh my gosh. There's one book that Borden wrote, and it's called Become Like God. In essence, what he is saying in it, we have the ability now to tell you and explain to you everything that happened in the one person that was our best example, our best prototype of living what was called a quantum holonomic light being based life, and his name was Jesus. He was the one that was the example. Read through the Gospels, read through the Bible, look at all the miracles that he did. They understood it. They understood how he could do everything that he was doing. They understood why he could walk on water. They understood why he could turn water into wine. They understood why he could massively produce a few loaves and fishes and feed 5,000 people out of it. They understood how he could heal people. They understood how that he could make limbs appear on people who were totally, basically, limited. They understood how they could take a lame person and make him walk and a blind man and make him see, because it's all energy-based issues. And they get it now. And they know how to do that. Or I should say they did when they were there as a group. And we are the ones that are going to get to learn how to do that if you want to. Nobody's going to do it for you. There is no savior coming in that's going to make it all happen for you. It's your choice. And that is the real bottom line foundational issue why the money comes forward. For you to have the time and the resources to be financially free to go do the work, to become a new quantum-based, holonomic quantum-based being. That's really what this is all about for all of us, where we want to go. And we're starting to learn how this works. Because instead of just being told, I remembered when I first started reading Gary Renard's books, and I was reading that the world isn't real, it's just an illusion, it's fake, and nothing out there is real. I thought, how do I grasp and get my mind around that stuff? It's kind of hard to accept. It was hard to lock onto something to help start making myself think that way. When I started reading Neruda's materials and Borden's materials, all of a sudden I had something that I could lock onto, and I could visualize it, and I could see it, and I could feel it, and I could understand it. I could conceive how all this stuff was happening. And when we get to that level, it starts what is called, it starts a momentum effect. And the more we get into it, the faster we go through the accelerations and the changes that come along in our lives. This is where we are, folks. This is who we are. This is what we get to be. Now, I'm not going to take the time tonight to go into even the next step of even the relationship now that I get to have with Sophia Stewart of understanding what it really truly is, a matrix world versus a real world. But think about that. We live in a world that we perceive is the matrix world, and it's just an illusion. And we have the ability to set ourselves free from it and start living in peace and harmony and wholeness. And there's no need. There's no lack. When we learn how to do the learn process, you don't need any money. You don't need any physical items, because anything you need, you can make it just appear right in front of you. They did it. They lived that life. But they were so committed, it wasn't about power and control. It was about service to others. They understood that. They lived a world of service to others, not service to self. This is where we're going. Okay? I think I'm about ready to wrap it up with that tonight. So with that, my wonderful friend here, Blanca, why don't you come on in and join us and share with us some of your thoughts of what I've shared here tonight.
Well, you did put a lot on the table, Dave, and if you were to drill down to some bullet points, it sounds like you're saying that there's an opportunity for humans as a species in total to raise to a different level of consciousness or a different level of awareness or perception, that the gates are actually open for us to do this, and perhaps we're the ones who are not stepping through or keeping ourselves back by still harboring some old energies like anger, judgment, fear. Is that kind of what your message is?
Yes. And this is a process that doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that takes years and decades. But there will be some of us, and we're not the only ones. I'm not the only ones. There's literally scores of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of others that already get this and they understand it. Those of us that get it and understand it, we get to be the pioneers for the millions to follow. But because this takes a massive amount of focused commitment, you can't just, oh, I like this idea and I just think this. No, you have to do the work to unprogram the old program and replace it with the new. And that takes commitment, focus, diligence, and vigilant action. And there's always lots of people that like to talk. They love the ideas. It sounds really good. I can understand it. But they don't want to do the work. And I know I want to do the work. And I'm saying I am doing the work because I'm experiencing it. I'm experiencing that shift and change in my own life. And others are seeing that within me. And I know that's what my job is here, is to bring that for you to understand that and to help be a leader or a pioneer through the process. And you will pick this up and learn to do it, and you'll catch it and you'll want it, and then you'll help others. So that's why it's going to take a while. You can start with, here's an illustration. It was close to 100 years ago that Einstein showed us and told us through physics and real science, there is no such thing as time. Time is non-existent. Time doesn't exist. And yet, 95 to 98% of the people in this world still live in a world of linear time. We think that way. We can say, okay, I can believe that, I can understand it, but it hasn't integrated into how we live. We're still living in linear time. I'm learning how to slowly let that go. I'm learning how, as I go out about my day, and I see something going on, it may not be pleasant. And I thought, well, wait a minute, it's not real, it's just an illusion. It's just their choice of perception that's creating the illusion. Now I get to choose how I'm going to choose to perceive that. Instead of choosing to perceive that as something that's negative, I'm going to look for the light in it and choose to see it in the positive. And I'm now starting to think that way better than ever before. When I feel something that is restrictive that is on me, like I don't have the time. I thought I don't live that way anymore. I am learning how to think outside of the fact that time is non-existent to me. It's not an issue. It's not about the time. What I experience in this world of form in front of my face, the value is in the experience. How am I perceiving the experience? That's the value. And the experience that comes before me is what gives me the opportunity to shift and change. But yeah, we're moving into it as a collective, and we get to choose to be the pioneers to go there, and people will choose what they want to do. And when money comes forward, I'm not going to be judging you what you're going to do with it. I'll just give you an opportunity. You want to come along or not? That's your choice. And you'll receive the benefits of what you choose to do, because we all reap what we sow. Okay? So back to you.
Well, no, that's a key point, because one thing is having access to the knowledge, right, and aiming to understand it, but it really doesn't count until one makes it practical, because what one is aiming to do is actually to change oneself. We won't be able to change the world until we can change ourselves, as you said. So that's the real challenge, but that's the real adventure, too, if indeed people value truth or freedom or realization, or victory or abundance, then these are some of the promises for the change in awareness or change in being. Do you agree with that?
Yes, yeah. Let me make this really quick comment here that, folks, we're going to be getting ready to go over to the callers. And if you would like to call in and either have some questions or want to make some comments, again, that phone number is 515-605-9356. Again, the number is 515-605-9356. Press 1 on your touch-tone phone, and that lets us know that you'd like to come in and make some comments, or you would have some questions, and we'll be moving into that here really shortly. So, and there's not very many people that are. We've got a lot of people on the list, listening, but we don't have that many that are signed up or saying that they want to come on yet. So, but yes, go ahead now. Back to you, Blanca.
Oh yes, and of course, if they press 1, then that'll put them in the queue.
Right.
So so the issue is there's a challenge to step up to a new level of consciousness and a new level of awareness, and it is a matter of effort, not just the knowledge, not just talking the talk, but walking the talk, and that there is a pioneering opportunity here. And it sounds like you're saying you're definitely committed to this direction, and then you feel that access to these funds is actually part and parcel of this whole dynamic.
Yes.
That's going to be, like you say, a tool.
Yeah.
And you're inviting us to see it that way as well.
Yeah, because see, to me, the money coming forward is only a part of the process. And I've come to this point in my life that I love what I do. I mean, this is so fulfilling for me, and it's very rewarding for me. And I thought, why would I not want to continue this? And I'm loving what I'm learning, and the learning just continues to happen. And I get to go down so many rabbit holes that people just dream about. And what I'm finding is this stuff finds me. Well, now I'm starting to understand some practicality about how it finds, is because as I expand myself, I then attract these very powerful light-based photon energy issues into my life that expands me even more, and it attracts like things, because like attracts like. So I'm attracting the things I like, the things that I love to do, and it's very rewarding to actually live your life that way. And, I'd heard about this all the years in the past, but I never really knew what it was like to experience it and live that way. But where I am now, it's that way for me. And I understand that if something... I understand that if something comes up in front of my face that appears to be derogatory or negative, it has a value. There's a value in it, that there's something that is good for me to learn, or there's something old to undo. And that's so I always see it as the positive for what's there. And that's the life that I'm getting to experience and learning. So, yeah.
That's a very powerful bit of wisdom you shared there, because if indeed we are, the gates are open, as we say, for a lifting of consciousness or awareness, of an attainment of a different state of being, we can't take the old energies with us, or we can't take those pieces of ourselves that are injured or not healed. And so it comes up in terms of the way we experience it as a challenge, or it comes up as an obstacle, or it comes up as something that may be look a little spooky to us. But if we react to it with the same old energies of fear or depression or dejection, we're really wasting a grand opportunity. What the universe is basically saying, hey, if you can work your way around this in an enlightened way or an empowered way or a different way, then you've got it. You can go, you can go to the next move. And I think this is the way we collect our wisdom. And I think that's kind of what you've been experiencing with challenges as well.
Life is a learning school opportunity. And we keep repeating all the old stuff until we learn it. It will keep coming back at us, even if it means having to experience certain things through multiple lifetimes. All the issues that come before you are all designed as an experience opportunity for you to heal and to move on and to grow and to learn. And if you don't want to see it that way, then they'll just keep repeating. They'll keep repeating and repeating and repeating until you get to the point where you're so sick and tired of it that you want to change. That's the powerful side of density. Density, bad experiences, give us the opportunity. They quicken and enhance our opportunities to create shift and change. They can become motivators to shift and change because I don't like what's going on in my life. But you have to come to that point where you recognize, I don't want this. This isn't how I want to live. This isn't how I'm told what I can do. This isn't I'm told about what is available for me. So when negative or bad things seem to come up in front of your life, always look at it. It's a growing, learning opportunity. Now, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to perceive it? Because perception is the key. So,
yes, as you were talking, I was just going to share one last thing. As you were talking about limited, constricted, very materialistic thinking versus a bit more expansive, potentiality-oriented thinking, it reminded me of a movie Alan and I saw last week, and it's not a recent movie. It came out some time ago, and maybe you saw it. It's called Pleasantville.
I remember it, but I don't recall. I don't think I've seen it.
Right. So it's a story of a young man and his sister living in what we would consider modern times, and their family is kind of broken, and he's kind of very passive, just sits in front of the TV. His sister is maybe not headed in the right direction, and so their life is a little bit in turmoil, and they end up going to Pleasantville, which is actually a black and white TV show. They're transported into this reality, yes, where everything is black and white, and everything, well, it's wonderful. Everything's just wonderful because everything works, but then it turns out to be rather oppressive because everything is repeated. Everybody's role is the same role. There's no opportunity for shifting. No one can really ask any questions that have never been asked before. And so with these two young people, they totally start shifting the way these people are thinking. And so the story is what happens when these two youngsters start pushing the boundaries of what the people in Pleasantville feel is their reality. It's a very interesting story. And so I thought about it as you were talking about, limited getting constricted, thinking this Pleasantville black and white town showed that very, very well.
Huh.
So if someone's kind of interested and curious in checking that out, they can do that.
Yeah, that's a great illustration. Yeah, so. Well, are we ready to go to the callers?
I think we've got a couple, so folks, there's plenty of room. If you've got a question or a comment, please do
Sure.
join us. I think I recognize that first number, so I'll jump to the second number.
That's right. We recognize that first one. He calls in frequently, but we'll go ahead and let him join us here tonight. So you can I'll take him, and then you can go on and screen the one after that. So and folks, we only have a couple people there that have chosen to call in, so there will be plenty of time if you would like to make comments or got questions. So let's go to Max on area code 617. Max, you're on the air. How can we help you tonight?
First of all, what an honor that Blanca even recognized my phone number. That's just outstanding.
That's Blanca. She's the one who recognizes your number because you call in almost every week, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Well, it's my chance to get to talk to you, Dave. I've said that before.
Well, thank you. So.
Tonight's call, you've made reference to how people have seen you grow. Your calls are getting so instructive to listen to in a very good way. Tonight's call was excellent.
Thank you.
And I particularly resonated with the part where you were talking about the photon light and how when we're in a positive space, we can get into the flow and we become very light. And things like synchronicity, serendipitous events, etc., begin to, get triggered around us. And certainly your last 5 years of your life is an example of that. A Course in Miracles, what I really love about A Course in Miracles is that it says, in no uncertain terms, that this is a dream.
Yeah.
Not unlike the dream that I had last night. It just has a slightly different feel to it, obviously, because it's like the socially conditioned hypnosis of what we consider to be the real world or reality. But the emphasis of my study is with Ken Wapnick, who I guess would be interpreted as the master teacher because he was the third individual to come into the group that expanded A Course in Miracles to the extent that it is now. And he says three things that are kind of like my mantra. Time is not linear. This world is an illusion, and everything has already happened. And to put it in another course sentence, we are mentally reviewing what has already gone by.
Yeah.
And you said, if we don't learn this lesson, then we're going to keep coming around to learn it.
Yep.
So the thing that comes really clear to me is that if I am mentally reviewing what has already gone by, then why am I choosing to mentally review this particular incident? And often it's something for me to work through, something to overcome, to transcend, whatever. And the simple fact of it is, I'm choosing to review it so that I can choose again.
Yep.
Whereas before I made a more negative, judgmental, critical interpretation or action or whatever, I now get to choose again. And since time is not linear, then yes, maybe I had multiple lifetimes, or maybe it's just all a series of dreams within the dream within the dream, something to that effect.
Mm-hmm. Ken Wapnick, he was the absolute master teacher of the principles that come out of A Course in Miracles, and over the last 6-7 years of my life, I've learned to just totally adopt that because it's so powerful. it goes beyond what is called the normal dualistic forms of spiritual teaching, and it transcends that and gets into a depth of truth that is beyond anything else that I've seen anywhere else. And there's lots of other really good stuff out there, but it's the one, and I love I've got a lot of Ken's books, and I just love reading his books. I can sit down and just out of the middle of nowhere pick up and just read one page, and all of a sudden, boom, stuff's just always popping, because he had such great depth of understanding what was being communicated there, and he put it into such simple terms for us to understand. His books are so good, and he took us beyond the norm. And it's like you said, that he understood that the world that we live in is really just a dream. It's an illusion. A dream is just another term for the fact that it's an illusion. We think the illusion is reality, but that's not reality at all. What reality is, the non-illusion. That's what reality is. So, and again, we will keep repeating things until we learn to understand that and grasp it, and that's what takes time to do that. So, okay, Max, anything else you want to share with us tonight? But thanks again for always appreciating the call.
Just answer a question.
Sure.
I'm sorry I took so long, but you said there was nobody else behind me. So, if you bring Gary Renard's disappearance of the universe into this dream type analogy, what I'm struggling to really work out is how to look at A.R. Borden and many other things that you're referring to in the holonomic universe as something to learn from and apply in this apparent reality, and juxtapose that with, but it's all a dream, and every single bit of it would be part of the dream.
Well,
so,
part of that for me, Max,
like
is, and it's what Ken Wapnick taught, it's what Gary Renard taught, and it's what the Course teaches, is when you communicate with people, you have to deal with them of where they are so that they can grasp it and understand it. And how many people can you go out there to and say, well, the world you live in is just a dream and it's an illusion, and they're going to get it and understand it? We're lucky if there's 1% to 2%. So that's why I teach the way that I teach. I bring these things up, but I always try to bring things back to practical where we can grasp it and understand it of where we are. And that's why I said, this shift and change takes decades in our lives to make these types of shifts and changes. But if we don't do it, then we just stay right where we are and we stay stuck. But so that's why you take the world of form and you deal with the world of form, because that's where the massive amounts of all of us as humanity live and understand. And then you try to explain how the world of form helps us make the transitions, because everything that comes up in the world of form is for our learning experience. And you explain it in terms that they can grasp and understand, because otherwise it just goes over their head. I remember when I first started reading, Disappearance of the Universe 9 years ago. I mean, in the beginning, it was going over my head, but I could capture that there's something that's depth here. And I kept coming back to it and coming back to it. And the more I kept coming back to it, then it started to become a part of my life. And that's where the real shifts and changes started, coming from me. We're all at different places, and we're just at different places in our lives in this process. And there's no judgment in that. That's just where we are. So you work with people where they are. So that's why I do what I do. So, okay?
Well, you're doing a good job where you are. So
thank you.
I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you, Max. Thanks again for calling. We'll see you later, okay? Have a good evening.
Good night, kid.
Thanks. Yep. Okay, all right.
Bye, Blanca.
Okay. Okay, I'm going on to the next lady. It's Lana at area code 702. Lana, you're on the air. What can I help you with tonight?
Hi, Dave. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you just fine, yes.
Okay, great. On a practical level, there was a flurry of activity. You had it, and it was in my world as well, where things were, documents were needed or changed or whatever, and you talked about this in your contacts relating to the U.S. government, contracts, Texas, etc. And then that flurry of activity, again, is, from what I'm getting you're saying, is sort of a hurry up and wait. Is it different than what's gone on before, and can you get more into the reasons why there is a stop on that after that flurry of activity?
I don't know why the stop. But what I can say is they were going through what they call 3 stages of development. And the first stage ended up taking a lot longer than what they thought about how it was explained to them. And the first stage was this master processing office of the currencies here in our country working with the other countries. They had to come in and get into contracts and agreements with our government, the U.S. Treasury, the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, the other countries, and the primary funders and the larger brokers. They all had to come into contract agreement, and it took months to get there. And they're now saying that's done. So the next stages are ready, and they're moving into the next 2 stages, which can happen very quickly. But it's still, at the end of the day, there's a larger picture, and that's the larger picture of the political leaders and when they're going to say go. And we just don't know on that. It could happen in 2 weeks. It could happen in 6 months. But everything, what I'm told is everything's ready to go. There's no more work they have to do. They're just waiting for the right, what they call strategic political moment to release the money. And that's how it's been explained to me.
The people that are in round 1 with you and yourself, have you had to update the contract to what was needed?
I already have.
What's that?
I already have most of what I need from everybody. I stay on top of that, but I'm going to be very, very selective and about when I ask for that from people so I don't create too much unneeded attention. So in essence...
And is that political? Go ahead. Yeah.
In essence, just be patient and trust my timing, if I can say it that way, okay? Because I know what's going on, kind of stuff. And some of the stuff, I don't know everything, but I know a lot of what's going on behind the scenes, and I always want to make sure that it's being done in the most safe and practical manner for us. And I'm not going to put stuff out there that's not necessary.
And in that bigger picture political sense, is that dependent on what factor? Congress, Trump, what factor?
I don't know all the details on that. It wouldn't be Congress.
Okay.
All Congress can do is pass a law. That's all that they can do.
Right.
At the end of the day, they talk and talk and talk, but on a practical, tangible basis, all they can do is pass a law. That's all Congress can do. Nothing else. So there are no new laws for this. There are no laws that need to be passed for these funds to be released. So it's not a Congress issue.
Okay, so if it's an executive
Yes.
part, is it an executive order that is needed or something else?
I have no idea. And I'm not even going to speculate and try to go there. I would say don't try to speculate, because first of all, remember what I said at the beginning of the program. Unless you are in a need to know, you're not going to know. And none of us at my level are in a need to know. None of the funders are in a need to know. None of the brokers are in a need to know. The only people at this point in time that are in need to know are at the very, very top government leaders in multiple countries. And they're the only ones. And they're not talking. They're staying silent, except to each other. So don't try to speculate when, where, how, what. Or I said don't even try to go there, because you'll just get yourself frustrated.
Well, I'm not frustrated other than the fact of, hurry up and wait. But since this has been such a long and ongoing process, is there anything different about this flurry of activity?
Elena, this process has been going on for 75 years. 75 years since the original Bretton Woods Agreement in 1943. That's how long this process has been going on. So no, it's not a long, drawn-out process. It just seems that way to us because we're new to the game.
What I'm saying is there anything different about this stage of the process that makes it more likely to happen other than the continuing long process?
Well, I think I already addressed that. Everything is done that needs to be done.
But we have, nothing personal to you, but we have heard that many times,
Yeah. So, I don't know what else I can add to what I've already said. Everything is done that needs to be done, and only the very top people are going to make the decision and when it's going to be released, and they aren't talking. That's about as simple as I can get. And I wouldn't even try to speculate on anything on all this stuff.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be back in touch.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's just that, I've been around so many stories for so long, and over and over and over again, the stories are never correct. So I don't even try to speculate anymore.
Exactly.
They're just,
Exactly.
I mean, you want to start reading all the blog sites, you can go back, 5 years, and every day there's an incorrect story. It is saying it's happening tomorrow, and it never does.
Exactly.
So I don't even go there. I have no interest in going there in speculation. And if I can't bring you something that's tangible, I'm not going to bring you anything.
Right. But Dave, some people, not me, thank God, and not you, because you have your continuing workshops, but some people have put their life on hold because they don't have any other vehicles. So that's just the way it is. So people are, they want the what they call the hopium. What is going on that you say there's internet, what was the word I can't remember the word you used, but something where internet harassment, where is that from the blog sites that you're being harassed, or what is that about?
There's these two websites that are just vicious. They think that any of us involved in any of this currency exchange, that we're absolute scammers, liars, and cheating and lying to people all the time. And they're very vicious in how they describe it. And so they're just sick people. I mean, I won't even go there beyond that. But there's two of them. But fortunately, they just, because, they just stay within themselves and their stuff doesn't go very far. But, I mean, those are people that you can't do much for them. They're sick people, and they're going to choose to, believe what, people will believe what they want to believe. Regardless of what, I could bring out every absolutely single fact and they'll still just believe what they want to believe. So. They won't even look at facts, hard facts.
Take care.
So, okay?
We'll be back in touch.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Yep. Okay, we have one more gentleman I'm going to go to. His name is Mark, and he's from area code 262. Mark, you're on the air. What can I help you with here tonight?
Good evening, Dave.
Yes.
See, I'm wondering if you could repeat the Facebook page where I can, about the A.R. Borden.
The writings,
I kind of missed that.
the writings of A.R. Borden. That's the name. The title is The Writings of A.R. Borden. That's the Facebook page.
Okay, well,
Yep.
Thank you. And I heard something very interesting in the last week, two different things. And up to this point, you've really been my only source that I heard of that's speaking of this currency exchange and money coming in. Now, I know somebody that works in investing. He's heard of this currency exchange, but he doesn't believe in it. But recently, in one of his phone calls, because he talks to high-level people in banking, he was told that soon there's going to be trillions of dollars from outside the country moving into our country. And I listened to a YouTube channel called the X22 Report, and they were interviewing Robert David Steele, if you're familiar with him.
Yes, I am.
And he said they were questioning him, and they were asking him about the economy, and his information was that Trump is going to be rolling out a gold-backed currency soon. And then he mentioned that he knows somebody that he trusts, that's in a high level that he trusts very much. And this person told him within the next 2 to 4 weeks, there's going to be trillions of dollars coming into this country that's going to be put in on the ground level. I thought that was pretty interesting that those two things came up in the last week or so.
Yeah, that's a possibility because, see, there are some very credible people that have talked about the trillions of dollars that the cabal has stolen from us, and they're in the process of being able to bring that back in and bring it back into for what is, basically, humanity's purpose. But that is not a currency exchange money that you and I would experience personally. The currency exchange is an entirely different issue than those. And I can understand how there will be people that would not believe in the currency exchange, because if you don't truly understand that the Dragon families have this money or how they got this money, it's pretty hard to believe it. Because I started this whole process saying, show me the money. Where are they getting all this money? Where's all this coming from? And when I got in this and I went through the steps in the process, and it took me a couple of years of really becoming acquainted with the funding sources and having firsthand experiences with them, then all of a sudden it really began to make sense. And I can see where it is. But if you haven't been down the path that I've been down or able to explain that to you, from a practical perspective, it's hard for people to believe that this kind of money is out there, because there's nothing that's tangible in their world that makes that possible. But the people who have these funds have been very careful, very quiet, and very secretive. And when I got involved in this, there was a reason why I would say upper level, government power people allow me to have this radio program. And I'm not going to go into that. It's best that I don't talk about that. But there's a reason why they let me do this, because normally when most people are talking at this level, they get shut down or they're taken out. But there's a reason why I'm protected and why I'm allowed to do what I do, because it's a bigger picture issue, and I really don't want to get into that tonight. But it makes sense. Yes, I understand the X-22 reports, and I listen to Robert David Steele a lot, and he is correct, and others are saying the same thing, that there's trillions of dollars that is out there. David Wilcock has been saying that as well. There's trillions of dollars that is out there that's ready to be brought back into us, because it was stolen from us. It was basically public's money that the cabal stole from the public. And it's going to come back into the public. Now, that means it's probably going to be a part of the government process, and the government are the ones that are going to decide, how and where it goes, and it's going to be used to pay off government debt and all kinds of stuff like that. That's my estimation. But and it could be a part of what are called, the prosperity funds. I don't know. That I don't know. But what I can say is what I do know, that's only a very small part of everything that's out there.
Yeah. So. Yeah, well, Robert David Steele, he said that it was going to be brought in on the lower level. So I kind of took that as, well, we're the lower level. But
yeah, but how does it get to you and me if it's a public and you've now got 400 million people who want it? Because we're approaching 400 million people in this country. I mean, how does he do that?
Yeah, I don't know that he clarified that it was a public thing. He just said it was going to be brought in. So, it could be that what he was talking about is it's going to these private exchanges. Maybe he doesn't even know. I don't know.
No, that money is not going. I can tell you right now, that money is not going to the private exchanges. That is not. Because that's where he doesn't know. He is not in touch with the people who are funding the private exchanges, and I am. And I'm not here to criticize him. I'm just saying, that money is not funding the private. If that type of thing is coming out into the public, and he's going to make that public, and that was to fund the private exchanges, watch 300 people go ballistic with anger. Because why didn't we get a part of it? Why wasn't ours? Why couldn't I have my $5 million? I mean, that's common sense that they can't allow that type of public money to go to a limited number of people privately without the public going berserk, when it's supposed to be public money.
Yeah.
I mean, that ain't going to happen. It's not a part of the currency exchange. Currency exchange is a private exchange process with contracts. And I've talked about where the money's coming from for that. And if you're not in the private exchange with contracts, you're not going to participate in it. And they have to do that in a legal manner, so we don't have massive lawsuits or attacks coming against us. That's why you fill out an NDA. That's why you have to fill out a limited power of attorney contract. And if you want any funds through the private exchange, you have to be a part of a contract process. And if you're not, you've got massive lawsuits coming after you. And it's all done in a legal manner, is how it's done. So, okay? Anything else, Mark?
Okay. Just one thing, Dave.
Sure.
As far as your Facebook page, when you send out that newsletter and you have that link that says, watch on Facebook, when I press that link, I come up to your Facebook page.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there that I'm watching you live right now. I'm on your Facebook page, and all I see is you with a picture of a guy wearing a hat.
No, it's there. The Facebook is there, and it's live right now. And I'm watching people making comments, in the chat area, and I am right. So that would say then you've probably got some cookies you need to clear out to get into my Facebook page, because if you come to my Facebook page, I am there right now live on Facebook. And there's hundreds of people that are following it. There's been 82 comments that have been made, throughout the program tonight. And it's there. It's all right there. Yeah. And it is being projected.
All right, so
and
I gotta clear up.
Yeah, you've probably got some you maybe have some cookies that are involved. It's not letting you get into my live page or something. But I'm there and I'm live right now on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Dave.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Well, Blanca, we don't have anybody else, or I don't see anybody else here tonight.
I think that's it, Dave.
I think that's it, and we're down to where it says 8.5 minutes left from the program, so we're probably about ready to call it a night tonight, aren't we?
I think you said a mouthful, and we got some good questions, so I agree.
Well, thank you kindly. I assume that's a nice, kind comment that I said a mouthful tonight, right?
It is. Lots of wonderful, substantial
well, thank you very
material.
much.
Very important material for us to consider.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, folks. Well, thank you very much for joining us here tonight, folks, on the Sedona Connection. And also a reminder, next week I will have Michael Lee Hill here on the program as my guest, because it's the Wednesday before he's going to be with us here in the workshop on Saturday. And it's been about 3 years since I've had him on the program. It will be nice to have him back on the program with us. So Michael Lee will be our guest next week, and then we will see you then. So have an absolutely wonderful week.